What happens after our favorite stories end? Hi, I'm Chris Meekness fan, and that is the question, among others, that we want to tackle today. With me today, Nico. Nice dance.
What's up, gamers? Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that.
Brody. Nice dance. Hello.
When things end, a new beginning starts.
Sean, I don't have anything that rhymes with dance or stance for you. I'm sorry. Hi, Sean.
I'm here. Hi.
Yay. Okay. Today's topic was basically urged out of this tweet. I don't know if Circuit Static is the originator of this tweet, but they're the one we found, so we're just going to credit them. The tweet text says, I like a Purge movie where they deal with the awkwardness of the next day. You turn up at work and everyone's asking, where's Bob from sales? Then you admit you killed him during the Purge. Hashtag that awkward moment.
Yeah. I just think it's so ripe, right? Like, it's not just the Purge. Like, obviously the Purge is like a good example to start with. And I feel like I feel like multiple comedians have covered this. Mm. I don't know if that's true, but I feel like it's easy to arrive at.
Also, to be clear, we're not going to like directly spoil the end of things, or at least try not to, right? We'll try to stick to things most people know what happens in, but just in case, spoiler warning for this episode.
Yeah, and
we'll try to get
generalized one.
Right. Yeah, I think the idea is to go more into generalized storytelling. However,
we'll probably
if we are going to spoiler something, we'll make sure it's noted.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Nico, I feel like you've been most prepared out of all of us. Is there one you'd like to lead us with on this one?
Yes, please.
Yes.
I'm ready. Let's go.
So, obviously the first thing is the Purge, right? A lot of material out there on that, like we said.
Yeah.
So I don't think that one's I don't think we're adding anything to that discussion. However, something like a zombie movie there are two types of endings that I would like to address today.
Okay.
The type of ending that is consequential to everyone in the world, and the type of ending that is inconsequential to everyone in the world.
Okay.
So a consequential ending comes when either, there's a world-saving event or something that would otherwise, or a world-ending event, right? Or something that would otherwise cause, the average Joe's life to be disrupted.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the flip side of that, where you think of like a Breaking Bad, where the story doesn't really affect many people outside of those involved.
Right.
Like the people in Pennsylvania won't be affected by the events of Breaking Bad.
Nope.
And
How
whereas
did
the people
cartel shenanigans directly impact the 2016 election in the Breaking Bad?
I'm ready for someone to actually be like, well, Mike's family was from Philadelphia, so I could think about it.
Okay.
I'm going to hate that.
Right.
No, I will respect it, but I'll hate it.
Valid. That's so valid. But I think I mean, like, if you pick a random person off of a list, right? They won't
small scale. Yeah.
Small scale stories versus large scale ones, right? And I think I want to start with a larger scale story and think of the zombie story, right? Just any zombie story, basically. We can talk Resident Evil. We can talk Dawn of the Dead. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Okay. Zombie stories are inherently so, what's the end game, right? And Brody had actually alluded to one in the pre-show that I'll let you cover Shaun of the Dead, Brody, but
I don't think I said the word Shaun of the Dead in the pre-show at all.
Somebody did.
That was me.
Did.
Yeah, Sean definitely said it, because I remember going, Sean said Shaun of the Dead.
Okay, then I'll let Sean cover cover him of the Dead.
Yeah, gosh.
So differently, though. Like when you go into a zombie story, a zombie movie, zombie everything, right? Like, what's the outcome? What are you expecting? You know what I mean? Because living in that world after a zombie story means that like your interpersonal relationships with the other people around you might be severed or strained, or they no longer are alive. But the zombie problem generally speaking, still remains.
Right.
And I always find that it's kind of cheesy if they don't have like a if they have like a I find it cheesy if they do have like a cure or something like that. I feel like you gotta like when you do a zombie story, you have to commit to it.
No, I respect a zombie story that's like, nah, there's a cure, there's a goal to this. like Red Dead Redemption, A Dead Nightmare, that whole thing where it's like, how do we stop this? Oh, we just return the cursed idol back to the cave. And then
quest.
Then to like justify the post game, they just have like the one guy sneak back into the cave and run out with the crystal again.
Well, but like that's beautiful. My favorite is that like one person always like doesn't want it to be like doesn't want the cure to happen.
Yeah, there's always one.
I think so this is one game that I think is going to like a fair spoiler warning for The Last of Us 1 at the very least.
We'll give you time to mute or click off. Do that now.
Okay. All right. So Last of Us 1 is an interesting one because it presents the idea of a cure and then says, but the interpersonal relationship is more important than the cure for all of humanity. Like that's basically they're just like, yeah, there is no cure because you care about this girl too much.
Right.
Like that's how that goes. And I'm going to preface this by saying I have not played Last of Us 2. I've
Brody.
I will probably eventually get around to it at some point, but I don't really care about what happens in it because I thought the ending to Last of Us 1 was so perfect that I didn't want a sequel because I liked that it was ambiguous and I liked that it wasn't like clear as to what would happen after that. And so like I didn't want to know because it was such a perfect like interpretation style ending.
But like it does beg the question that like if you lived in a world that was infested by zombies, right? Like let's I don't know. And let's say that you like watched someone destroy the cure. Like I think that would also be pretty awkward in the same way that like a post-purge would be awkward.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine someone like being in a community of humans for too much longer after doing that.
Yeah, like another thing that like I thought of while we were talking about, like whenever we brought up the whole like what happens after such and such. Everyone knows, and I guess minor spoiler for like MCU stuff. Everyone knows about the Thanos snap, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone knows about that. So like, what happens after that? What happens?
Excellent.
That's an incredible question.
The MCU has been exploring what happens after that to make success.
No one watched those. Those don't count.
But it's to me, it's funny because like just imagine like you had like the love of your life and they just like boom, they're gone. I don't know what to do. They're gone for X amount of years, and you go live your own life. You go somewhere else. Bada bing, bada boom, and the snap. Again, spoilers for MCU stuff, but some people come back. They don't age. Number one. Number two is what if you have like a different life? Like, what if you remarried? What if you have like different kids?
True.
What if? What if like your home's gone now? Like so much chaos would happen right then and there. Because you have people that like say in high school, like they're a freshman and now like their best friend's like a senior going off to college, and they're like, well, I just learned what 2 times 7 was, and now I'm over here wondering what I'm going to do with my life, and also what happened?
Here's the question: what's your first move if that happens to you?
If I get snapped away, I'm gone.
If you got snapped and you came back.
Okay.
What? Because remember, you don't have a choice.
Oh, yeah, you don't have a choice. I'm going to see, because number one, I know all my family will always have the same number, so I'm going to try calling one of them just to see what happens. Because I wouldn't have a cell phone.
I like that your like modus operandi is like Philip J. Fry the first day he's in the future. Just like look up relatives.
Yeah, like see if there's anything. See if I can like see Facebook or whatever. Because like I imagine that's gonna be around. So like I'm just gonna see who all is around that I know, because I don't think anyone's going to hack into my profile between then and now.
I think Chris has a question.
Yeah, Chris has a question.
I only watched the Spider-Mans and up till Guardians 1. Did you come back with your clothes on? Is that the first order of business?
Yeah, you do come back with your clothes on.
I actually don't remember the mechanics of it.
That's kind.
I think your clothes come back with you. It's not like Dragon Ball Z whenever Cell like.
No, you know what? I really like the idea though of going back to like when they're getting snapped and they're turning into dust, but their clothes get left behind. So it's just like Spider-Man's like suit in Tony's arm.
Because my thought was like, would your phone go with you? Would you come back with the phone? Like your wallet?
What part of you isn't going? Yeah, that's a good question. Because like,
maybe it's like prison rules. Like you get your belongings back when you come back out.
I actually think the holder of the stones would set the rules, wouldn't they?
I like the idea of Thanos just like writing and fires coming off the page. Like, and when they come back, they're going to have all their stuff.
It's up to Thanos to literally like, it's like, okay, so if the heroes do bring them back, they're going to get all of their
which they're not, first of all.
If my plan is thwarted, then they better have a contingency.
Yeah, they at least better have clothes on because like, look, I'm going to be honest. Like, I may not like them, but I don't want anyone's like dong hanging out in the middle of like a Thursday afternoon. Like, geez, come on, guys.
So after Infinity War, I imagine
it'd be so chaotic.
It'd be pretty awkward if you just like ran into Thanos on the street. You're like, yo, dude.
You just make eye contact. He just kind of looks down. You're like, wait, you're that guy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know what you're talking about, guy. I don't know what Thanos sounds like. I guess you just sound.
Yeah. And then like,
and you're like, hey, why didn't you just double the resources? Why didn't you just double the resources?
Too much work.
If I met Thanos on the street after the snap, I would ask him what he was cooking.
Oh yeah, true.
Yo, did Ant-Man really do that thing to you, bro? Did he really go in there?
Yo,
was that a thing, dude?
Gosh,
yo, that's kind of weird, man. I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna take this moment talking about superheroes to segue and tell a story that I've been saving for if I was on the episode with this topic.
Oh my god, I could have talked for 4 hours about that, but please take us away. Actually,
yes.
Odd. So
I'm ready.
In a similar idea, that not directly related to a game's ending per se, but more so what happens in a game's world after you, the player either stop playing or just after you have interacted with it. And I wanted to tell a story of what I would do as a teenager, playing Infamous 1 on the PlayStation 3, which is a game if you don't
Brody
know.
coded.
Yeah, if you don't know, that's a game where you can play good or evil. And you get different powers depending on which sort of path you take. So, being the edgy teenager I always went for the evil playthrough the first time I would run through the game. Because I was just like, yeah, I gotta play the evil one. And with the way that the evil one worked is if you would kill civilians, you would get like 2 XP or whatever, like evil XP for like doing stuff.
Evil XP.
It wasn't evil much.
You look like just enough evil XP to level up.
Anyway, what I used to do as a teenager, I don't know what this says about me, but this is a true thing that I would do.
I'm ready.
Is I would kill like a random guy with like my electricity powers, and then in my own head I would proceed to imagine all of the proceedings of the people in this NPC's life after that point. So like I would picture his wife like getting the knock on the door from like the cops telling them her husband has like died on the way home. Or I would picture like the wife like at home at night.
He was just walking down the street and a bald guy like zapped his ass.
It gets weird. I would picture the wife like at home like with their son like after school, like, Mom, my husband hasn't called. He usually calls like every day after work when he's going to the grocery store, but he hasn't. Yeah, so the wife's like up at night, like worried, like and like doesn't know what's happened to him yet, and has sent the kid to bed. And then the kid's at school the next day when the wife gets like the cops come and tell him that her husband's dead, and then she has to like the kid gets home from school, and then the wife has to break the news to the child. And then I would go and I would imagine the whole like funeral service for the guy and like all of the family and all of like the different like
every
eulogies.
person you killed.
Not every person, but sometimes.
Oh, okay.
If someone looks particularly interesting to think about how their family would react that they're dead.
I like I imagine like you doing this, and every time you do it, you have like a stereo by you, and you just start playing like Mad World. Like you just kill them and just start playing Mad World. Put the controller down and just like sit back and
oh my god,
Brody
just turns into black and white IRL.
And then you like try to go find their house, and like you stand outside of it like 3 a.m. and just like looking in, like you knowing what you did and knowing what they're gonna see.
I'm just waiting until we get like Black Mirror AI technology where I can put a human consciousness into the video games and make them all do it. Yeah.
I was sitting here like thinking of bringing up like, did we all have that moment where we killed every NPC in the first game that gave us that choice, or is that sociopathic? But then I hear that I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm normal.
Yeah, you're a good dude. I didn't do it myself because I was like, oh man, I don't have the energy to do this. So I never did it myself. Well, because Hitman would have been the game for me to do that in. And like,
yeah, that makes sense. Hitman's very much like if you screw up, like just go up guns blazing at that point, see what happens.
Oh yeah, dude. No, I mean if I screw up in Hitman, I just go to my last save. I save every 2 seconds in Hitman. Anyway, I digress.
Yes.
Holy shit.
For me, it was Oblivion, and like the second you kill someone, everyone like camera walks onto your face, and then their bodies turn around, and they're like, "Oh my god, what have you done?" And I was like, "Oh, this feels like a lot of work. I guess I won't do that." Okay.
Yeah. Oh gosh,
so funny.
I just real quick thing before we go into the actual endings of stuff again. I did that in Elder Scrolls Online because I thought like, oh, if I kill people, I'll level up, I'll get the experience, and I didn't know that in Elder Scrolls Online, your bounty doesn't go away. Like the moment you enter that town, everyone hates you. Like it's automatic. So like I spent like an hour just grinding, killing people because they were just like so low leveled. And I told the people I were playing with, they're like, Sean, what? I was like, yeah, I just got all this bounty, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'll go to the jail and they'll fix it. They're like, no, Sean, that's not how that works. You have that bounty forever until you pay it. And I was like, what? Oh, and then I just literally deleted that character and made a new one because I couldn't play. I'm not even kidding. I had to like
get around it.
Yeah.
I was really hoping you would say you were just going around killing everyone and you became like the guy from that South Park episode about World of Warcraft and everyone's like, oh my god, it's Wolf Chaos on. We gotta get out of here.
Oh, that's
so
my gosh.
funny.
Yeah.
Man.
Gosh,
Chris, I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
What do you think the day after Chaos attacked Station Square was like?
This didn't come to my mind even before you mentioned it, because of course, right? Sonic Adventure, a city gets flooded at the end. Basically, all you need to know is that a kaiju essentially destroys the city and floods it, right? And you can extrapolate that out to like any disaster movie or whatever, right? Like Godzilla, right? Yeah. And like, I didn't respond to you because like what I always think is like, I can't be covered by their insurance, There's no way.
Oh my god, no way. Dude, well, and what about coastal towns when Godzilla and the kaiju come up out the water and displace their volume so that the shorelines now are like there's much more land? Yeah. Like New Jersey would get bigger if Godzilla and the kaiju were to come out of the water.
We can have that.
The scale that they are in the modern movie.
I have a question now because you brought up the topic of insurance, and I feel like in a universe like say Pacific Rim, right? Like there's got to be
California.
Got to be kaiju insurance, right?
Absolutely.
Like
I think
kaiju
about
insurance.
Or Jaeger insurance, at least.
And the Sonic movie, or not the Sonic movie, the Sonic universe, it feels ripe for kaiju insurance. Like,
because capitalism exists in all of it. Because like when you think about it, like maybe you could like combine like your life insurance with the kaiju thing. Like, hey, you might die, but your kids, if they live through it, they'll get like maybe 50,000 if you're lucky. And then like they have to go through lawyers and blah blah blah. Yeah. But then like those lawyers are also dead because of the kaiju. So it's just like one big mess, and then that company goes bankrupt because they're all dead. Oh, that what?
Do you think there's like a different like payout scale depending on the size of the kaiju? Like,
absolutely.
Like if you're getting like chaos, like perfect chaos, you get like $10,000. But if you're getting like Dark Gaia, that's like $100,000.
I mean, I would imagine
only 10. Hold on. 10,000. for just that, that's insane to me.
Well, I would imagine that would
seems
happen.
low.
There would be a handful of folks.
Oh yeah.
Who would go. It would be wealthy and connected enough to go into like the bunkers and stuff like that.
Right.
But otherwise, I have a hard time believing that a post-Godzilla world or a post-kaiju world would still embrace capitalism.
Well, I think about it to such a degree because of the new Godzilla movies and the MonsterVerse, right? Where you get to, I think it's Godzilla versus King Kong, the last one, I think, where there's like a podcaster dude who's like sneaking into the facility and he's like, you guys have no idea what's going on out here. But I'm like, Godzilla and King Ghidorah and all these things fought. People saw those. People know about these things. They went through cities and everyone just kept going and then they keep coming back. And I'm like, at what point are you like, we need to move everything inward, center United States, right? Or is there so much bureaucracy and crap that it's just held up in governments, like with our climate change? Is this a statement on life? Is this too real?
Yeah,
right.
There is the like, why don't people move away from Gotham City type of
and then
argument,
to the degree that I'm like, well, they must lower the cost of living and give some tax breaks or something. There must be some incentive that's just real cheap to live in LA because maybe Godzilla will come back and kill you.
I was gonna say I do feel like the economics, like the socioeconomics of a world with something like a kaiju in it definitely would incentivize centralized living as opposed to coastal life.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure.
But then again, there's also like a lot of Godzilla movies that like, things do happen in the middle of like the wilderness and stuff like that. So you can't really bank on that too much depending on, which Godzilla verse you're going into. Yeah. But like for me, I think that, well, not think, like I know, Godzilla is very much like a, talking about like how we treat the environment around us and whatnot and how capitalism affects that. And I think a really big thing in that is the government using that fear to be like, hey, send us all this money. We'll make our own Mecha Godzilla that'll fight that one. Right. And that's, it's just like people using that fear because fear mongering is huge. Not even just like in, made up land. It's huge now with us, with everybody, where people like, will spend there's people that will spend any kind of money just to feel safe and they don't care where that money goes. Just as long as you keep me and my family safe, I don't care.
Yeah. Now, Chris.
Oh, hey.
If you found out that the Time Eater was real and he was going back in time to steal your friends, what would you do?
Who's the Time Eater?
How would that affect your perception of the universe if you found that the Time Eater was real and he was going back in time to steal your friends?
Who's the Time Eater?
I think the first thing I would do is tell my friends to listen to the Crubcast, which is streamed every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. on twitch.tv/Crub_official with edited episodes going out every Friday on podcast services and on YouTube at Crub Official. Just search Crub Podcast, Crubcast. We're there. To answer you, Sean, just because I don't want to keep you waiting too long. The Time Eater eats time and opens time holes
to me.
And sends you through time and space.
Anime monster from Sonic Generations. It's that game's anime monster.
Oh, I have that game. I haven't played it yet.
He eats time. And he's currently going back in time to steal all of Chris's friends before we can become too powerful.
And to play the shitty games that suck ass? What?
I don't... Gosh. Oh, gosh. Imagine a world...
I think it's an issue because, like, if I know about the Time Eater, Brody, the government knows about the Time Eater. Everyone knows about the Time Eater. And then it's, well, how could we harness this for evil, right? I think your question's good Central. On a personal level. I think that's a better question. But
so you would be worried about the human influence over the Time Eater. You wouldn't be scared of the Time Eater itself.
Right.
That's a good point, actually.
Oh, yeah.
I would
you
start
can
having
gaslight
issues.
Everybody. You can gaslight everybody.
Well,
everybody will be gaslit.
This thing could be harnessed for evil, but if I'm here and everything was fine up until now, clearly it wasn't. Do I have an opportunity to be evil? Is this my origin story of being a villain?
Well, the thing is, what they teach you in business school, what they teach you in business school. Apologies for the sirens. That's me.
Oh, okay.
They're coming. They're coming for me.
They found the time
meter.
No,
He's coming.
Unfortunately, I can't stop that. Unfortunately,
You could,
but
You could if you fought crime.
Just go for the time meter portal. Yeah.
well, honestly, people shouldn't be doing crime this late at night anyway. That feels.
We're all trying to relax. Come on here. Come on.
Yeah, that feels kind of lame, dude.
Yeah.
All crime should not take place. But if it were to take place, maybe
Business
consider
hours.
between 3 and 5 p.m. Just consider
no,
that.
rush hour.
It's a very narrow window.
That's rush hour.
That's when kids get out of school.
No. The kids would already have been out of school.
They get out at 3.
That is them going.
They start walking home at like 2:50.
Whatever. Just don't do crime to them. Do crime elsewhere. Don't do crime. Don't do crime. Actually, that's the better option.
That's a beautiful
we
sense.
do not support condone crime here.
What's the best time to do crime? Let's
What
ask
was
the time meter.
the heck was I talking about?
I was waiting for you to talk about another ending.
Well,
Time meters?
what they teach you in business school is that subscription models are more profitable long term, and so anything like a time meter would immediately be sold to people as a service. Like anything that like does time shenanigans would be sold to people as a service. I think.
Yeah, but the only thing he can do is go back in time and steal your friends, and then make you go through stages that you
grief.
did.
Stages of grief. Yeah, no, like classic and modern team up. You and your past self to be like.
You have to go back to the first job you ever worked at and save your old manager.
Right.
This is just freaking Scrooge. Like you're just going back in time to like save yourself in a way.
But you get to visit a classic and modern remix of the Taco Bell you used to work at.
And like my elementary school, where like I go with my classic self to either let him or not let him kick the principal's shin. Maybe I help. He's like the boss fight of the classic era, right?
You could. Oh my gosh, this is like you could just.
Yeah, well, this is getting into Shadow the Hedgehog territory because it's like Black Doom. It's like pick your path.
I don't wear. Oh gosh.
Do you kick the principal in the shin? Is that your mission objective for this level?
Yes.
That's a great one too, because that's like an alien comet visits every 50 years, and the government knows about it. What happens if that gets out? Because that's alien life conspiring to destroy humans, and then a little hedgehog stops it.
Yeah, there's almost certainly conspiracy theorists in a universe like the Sonic universe.
Oh, absolutely.
There's almost certainly conspiracy theorists that are like, see Sonic, this blue hedgehog exists.
I mean, the big thing that doesn't ever really get addressed again is that in SA2, Eggman shoots a laser at the moon and craters it, and there's like a third of the moon missing. I'm like, well, great. See, how does that affect the ocean, first of all?
It's also molten lava inside.
Yeah,
the moon.
Everything affects the tides, man. Especially those like I'm saying, those early iterations of Godzilla. Now imagine these two things happen at the same time.
Well, I mean,
it's over.
Here's the thing: when you think about it, right? I think the official canon result of the moon in Sonic Adventure 2 is that it eventually like kind of like imploded into itself and became a smaller version of the moon as it like smoothed over.
I have to be a Sonic nerd. Do you want to know the actual official canon answer that was given?
No.
Yes.
According to series producer, the moon just rotated and the side that got destroyed faces away from Earth.
That's it, right. Yes. Yes.
So I guess for most people, you'd never think about the moon again at a point. You'd just be like, oh, there it is. Looks normal. And then that'd be like war for your kids. It's like, 50 years ago, there was a scientist and he shot a space laser at it, but it's fine.
It's like it's going to be like explaining COVID to anyone that was born in 2022.
Oh my god, no!
God, people are born after COVID.
Yes,
that feels like an oversight. Yeah, that feels like they should have just stopped. Should have just stopped that.
It didn't.
Man,
it did not
that's
stop.
So funny.
Gosh.
Oh my god, fellas.
I feel like we've talked a lot about large scale things. I've had some smaller scale ones in my mind because like lately the most boring practice I do when consuming certain media, which is the human way to say it, consuming media, I think about what happens next to these people, and it started when I was watching The Ring at my partner's house for the first time a few months back.
Nice. The American version?
Yeah, the big Hollywood one. And I watched that, and I'm like, whoa, that was a little creepy. How did any of these people lead a normal, non-traumatic life after this? I guess they don't.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Dude, especially after horror movies, man. Like, the only ones that have ever made sense to me are like when they do like the Scream sequels, for example. Like, I think Sidney Prescott got some kind of training or something in between the first and the second.
Yeah, and she shows like a lot of like,
growth over time.
Growth, and also like she double checks everything. Like she actually shows that she is still very much aware and still very much afraid because she doesn't trust anything like that. I think that does it well. I think also Jamie Lee Curtis in the Halloween movies, I think they portray that very well too, because she's very much like, no, I went through this, and everyone around her was like, oh, it's fine, honey, it's okay. And she's like, no, it's freaking not, and you're gonna see this.
Dude, and like that's gotta be awkward. Like when people say it's gotta be awkward when somebody is like, oh, this must not be real.
Yeah. So speaking of that, this is something I wanted to bring up, and it's a little more on the serious side, but like I love Lord of the Rings, and how that ends. Tolkien does like a lot of like, and then everything was good and well, and he ruled for this, blah blah blah, but he didn't really go into like a lot of detail about like exactly what happened afterwards, because there's still like the orcs, what happened to them, what happened with all the men that were fighting with one another, what happened to the rest of the dwarves. They went to the mountain, but then like what else happened, blah blah blah. And there's so many like things that were left open-ended, to the point where he started to work on a sequel, and he just wasn't liking it. However, he did start the sequel by saying like there are people like hundreds of years later who don't even believe that the War of the Ring happened, and like, oh, that's just a fairy tale and things like that. Where even like people that were under, say, Sauron, they were conspiring with other humans like, hey, that didn't happen, blah blah blah. So like seeing that conspiracy kind of being brought up into that world was interesting. I mean, like, it didn't actually get published because Tolkien never finished it, but it's always been interesting to me to like look into those worlds and the happily ever after. Well, is it happily ever after? Because there's a lot of stuff that like I want to know what happened, but at the same time I think that kind of shows how good of a story is, because like the more you want, the better it is. And it's kind of nice that we don't get every answer, because there's a lot of speculation, and you look into, character motives and whatnot. So it's a very interesting thing that you can like talk to like-minded individuals about. But I will always remember George R.R. Martin talking about Tolkien. The one thing, I know it's taken out of context, but the one thing he said is like, I want to know about Aragorn's taxes. Like, what was his tax policy after, Gondor rose up? And I know like that's just like why would you care about that? But then when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it's just like, what happened to everything? Because there was a war. There were bad people. Bad people are still there. They didn't just kill them all off. What are they doing now? Are they in jail? So it's really interesting to like think about like what happened. And
it's also
that brings up a question that I wanted to ask you, Sean, which is the idea of observing the economics of a world post the hero's journey within it. And I really wanted to ask you, how do you feel the economic situation in the Isle o' Hags was affected after Gruntilda's demise post Tooie?
I love beginning that Lord of the Rings talk with that nonsense.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to bring this up, and I knew I had it in my heart. I'm like, I'm going to talk about this, and Banjo Tooie's coming up. I knew it, I felt it, and I was all for it. That's a good question.
Because Chris brought up a really good point in the chat that we planned this episode in, which is Witchy World. Yeah. I hadn't even thought of Witchy World at the time.
Because
I think of the economy of this world, right? And there's like 20 people who live in it. There's a bar in one place. There's a burger shop in the theme park that I guess all 20 people may go to, even though it's clearly owned by the evil person.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's like at the same time, it's so fun for like some people to join. So it's like, I might as well give them a couple bucks.
Like if the evil person's dead, right? Like it's going to be under new ownership.
Exactly.
Who would take it over?
You could have so many people.
The guy running the burger stand. He's gonna run with you.
The Rhino?
Oh, you could.
Yeah.
You could have. Yeah. Oh, I love Al.
I did.
Al's one of my favorite characters.
Or whatever his name is.
I don't like Patches.
Patches. You killed Patches.
Yeah.
I was thinking King Jinjo.
He blows away.
King Jinjo. No, he would ruin that place. He would really suck the life force out of that. Who
was the fish? Woo Fak Fak? Was that it?
What?
I don't think you can say that. I don't need to censor that.
Well,
the big lantern fish.
Well, dear listener, I am just as lost as you are.
Yes. I think it would go bad for a while, but they pick it back up. Anyway, go ahead.
No, so like the Lord of the Rings stuff begs the question, right? Like in universes like that, right? Where like something happens, but it might not have. I don't know this plot of Lord of the Rings, so this is not a spoiler or anything or whatever. But you know, in a world where something legendary happens and it's the only reason that everyone is alive,
yeah,
does that then become like, how does that story get passed down from generations to generations? Like, would people, you know, far away from Isengard or whatever land, you know, would people people out in like
Hawaii,
yeah, like the Westeros version of Hawaii, right? Like, would people in these other continents like hear about this, right? Like, do they know?
Yeah, because it is in Middle Earth, and like people like literally go, like the elves go across, like away from everything that's happening,
right?
And there are some places like there's even 2 blue wizards that like went to a different area that we have no idea what happened to them. So that is actually a really interesting question. I kind of think of it as, I kind of like relate it to Norse mythology, because while we have a lot of books about it, it was mostly passed on by like songs and, you know, people speaking it. So like a lot of stuff has been lost in translation, where we have like 2 characters that are basically the same character. Like for example, what's his name? The wolf, the Garm.
No.
I
have no idea.
Blanking. But like, you know, the 2 wolves, you know, some is supposed to be like the same one and whatnot. It's gonna come to me later on. I'm gonna be pissed off.
Is that what the 2 wolves inside us comes from?
That's what I was thinking.
But like it was passed on, you know, by, you know, speech. And so a lot of it has been lost in translation. A lot of it has been like messy. So like we're seeing a different version than what was intended in a lot of Norse mythology, and that allows a lot of interpretation. So I kind of see something like that big happening back then, like saying Lord of the Rings was, you know, that would happen. I feel like it would get out, but it's like how much truth would get out, you know?
Right. And like, I feel like, especially if you take a more modern version of something like that, like, you know, or even like we wanted to talk about like smaller scale stories as well, right? Like, you know, even something like a Breaking Bad, right? Like, how does that appear in the news?
Yeah.
And how does that like get out there? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, without spoiling Breaking Bad or anything, right? Like a show where a specific event happens and it's big enough for some official body to get involved, some newsworthy thing to happen, but it's maybe not affecting of everybody. Yeah. You know, like I do like to think about that. How does TMZ ruin that? Right. Like if you lived in, if you live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and you read the morning paper and you see like, you know, blah, blah, crystal meth, right? And you're like, huh, I didn't know, like, you know, someone was just reading the paper and they're like, wow, I didn't know they did that in this neighborhood.
Hope I can
just put it away and left.
Yeah.
Hope I can get some of that action later.
Yeah. And they just start reading Garfield right afterwards.
Right. Right. Like,
that one's rough because I feel like I've seen so many tragedies on the news over time that I'm just sitting here like, you know, actually I could pretty much imagine.
Right.
Like you either see
also
like the people involved who I won't name because we're not spoiling the end of Breaking Bad, or you just see like, oh, crystal meth empire discovered in this Albuquerque, right? You know, when it gets out, feels I can see that scene and then crying already. I don't like that.
No, absolutely. And like, you know what I'm talking about.
I can see the
like,
Netflix documentary. Like,
that would be the worst. No.
Oh, that would happen.
Oh my God. Yeah. Dude, they definitely actually, that'd be some content that I would.
There'd be so many podcasts about it
for like a Vince Gilligan or somebody to like produce, which is the in-universe Netflix documentary about Breaking
No, don't speak that in the universe. Because you also know there'd be like a bunch of podcasts about it too. Like, well, I heard
you would have to get
happened.
a guy who looks like he would be a good Bryan Cranston reenactor.
Yes. Yeah.
I hate this.
Like, what if they did though? What if they did like wait a couple years and get like Christian Bale or somebody, like a top
Christian
list
Bale
actor
to play
in a couple of years when he's like a little older,
to play like the no-name actor that comes in and does the reenactment on the true crime Netflix.
Honestly, he's like the only person who's ever operated on that many layers of irony to be able to like do it.
I could, you know what? I hate that you're right, but I could see it.
I was kind of wanting to bring The Room up as a joke, but that does remind me of the Disaster Artist film adaptation of the book, which did have a lot of stars in it, which maybe also had Bryan Cranston in it. I don't really remember.
I don't think
so. At that point, screw it. Why not? Who cares? I won't watch it. I will.
Which also that movie made me feel so bad. Like I remember sitting there like, wow, I feel bad for Tommy Wiseau.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel bad for allegedly DB Cooper as well.
Yeah, and then like learning everything, like, oh wow, everything was okay. But like, man, I forgot about that movie.
That's a strange one I think about too, because I'm like, what happens? You know, I'm going to spoil The Room. We've all, it's been the internet joke
I
forever.
think that's totally fine.
We're probably in a green area
what
there.
Is there even to spoil about?
Yeah, it's open-ended. We don't even know.
No, actually, it's not. He shoots himself through the mouth and dies.
Right, and so imagine,
he says, "Everyone betray me. I'm fed up with this world." And he says whatever he says at the end, "Goodbye, sweet world," or "Sweet Valentine," or whatever the hell. And kaboom! And everyone runs in and finds his body, and it's like, "Oh my God, Johnny, no!"
I mean, he could have lived.
They betray me.
Well, see now, no, it's not.
So the question is, right? Like,
what if he missed?
Do those people continue being friends with?
Did they continue being awful, horrible human beings? Right? Like
True. Yeah.
Like the two
fixes
still
all their problems.
Like, do you think Mark and Lisa like think about Tommy shooting himself in the head when they?
Like that probably ruins their relationship. Also, swear jar, Brody. But honestly, that one's very valid because like we were all thinking it.
Yeah. That was a very valid use of the swear jar, Brody. Possibly the first in a while.
Yeah, but I do think I have thought about this. I'm like, do they stay together? Do they think about this often as like a traumatic thing? Does it bond them together, or does it irreparably force them apart? Is Denny still watching through the window? Does the guy who gets the chocolate eaten off of his underwear, like, is he like, I'm still into this? You can still eat chocolate off of me underwear.
Was it definitely breast cancer?
Does the flower shop? Does the flower shop lady even register that he's like? Does she even clock it? Like, or does she just like go on?
Oh my God,
does doggy just live?
No.
That's the doggy like what I want.
The doggy like waits for him. Yeah, he waits for him every day, just like waiting to see him again, and he never does.
It's like Seymour in Futurama. Like he's waiting
every day to get pet.
for Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, that's the one I can see of the newspaper. The flower shop, the forest. I opening up. He looks familiar. Next page, Garfield. Nice.
Speaking of, really quick, the Seymour thing. So I remember like I had some family over and like they were watching a movie. It was like, you know that story based on like the dog that waits for his owner at the train and stuff.
Hachiko.
It was based on that. And like they put it on, and I'm watching and I'm like, oh, I know what this is from. And like, I could tell that nobody in my family knew what was going to happen. I'm like, oh, this is going to completely wreck them. And then like, I will never forget this. The thing happens and my sister's looking at me. She's like, what? Oh no. And like, she started to get really sad. She's like, I didn't know that happened. I'm like, you know, this is based on a true story, right? She's like, what? Yeah. And I have never heard such a gut-wrenching no come from my sister before. She just like went to the ground. I was like, no. no. And my grandma looked at us like, what? And I'm like, this is based on a true story. She's like, no. And so like I'm just like standing there like breaking the news that what you just saw on the TV is what happened in real life, and I'm watching family members now cry about this movie.
And that actually does bring up a good point, Sean. Actually, that does bring up a good point. There's a third type of ending that I missed in my original. Which what I thought was mutually exclusive.
It's ones where Tommy Wiseau comes back as a cyborg.
Right, yeah, that's the third category of mutually exclusive categories.
To be honest, I feel like he would come back as a ghost, if anything. It's like a force ghost.
No, Cyborg, dude. Cyborg for sure.
Okay, I don't want to distract from where Nico is going, but if you play the Room game on Newgrounds, he does come back as a ghost.
It was documentary. It was documentary endings, which is just being there in real life after the thing happens.
I was thinking about bringing that up as a joke earlier today. I was what about historical movies?
Yeah, well, the thing is, right, like you could argue that like something like an Inglourious Bastards might be a really good point to jump off for something like that. And I'm not gonna spoil
a whole can of worms because there's a whole like Tarantino interconnected.
Well, but the whole point. Okay, we need to talk about that offline because I'm intrigued about that. But
I've never seen it.
Basically, a major event in history is just not played the same way.
I think I can put together what that might be. Okay.
A major event in history is just like it's just straight up different.
It's very different.
And not like in this case, maybe not super important what that is specifically. But in historical fiction, where they do like stretch the truth or change things or whatever and say, what if we live in a world with blank? And that's like the point of the movie. Like living in a world after that would be very similar to our world. But then that gets into like sort of, I suppose, that multiverse idea. And like, I think that kind of doesn't enthrall me personally.
Yeah. When I watched Django Unchained, I'm like, this is a portal into the multiverse of real life.
Yeah, right. Gosh. There's some people who just see it, man. There's some people who just see the alternate versions of reality.
Yeah. So speaking on a much lighter note, a thing that I wanted to bring up is, we've talked about the ending of like games and movies and what have you, and like historical events. I want to know, at the end of Super Mario Brothers 3, when the play ends, what happens?
That is a great question.
They go play Mario Party.
What do you mean by that?
They go race karts.
So there's a theory that Super Mario Brothers 3 is a theater play. So basing it off of, that, like, there's
I think I know, right, like the background with all the screws and stuff in it. I see.
So it's interesting because like Thousand Year Door literally is a theater play.
Yeah, so like, what do you do afterwards? Like, what do they do? Do they have like different lives? Are they stuck in this perpetual reality where this is just their what's it called? The place you're stuck forever.
Like not Mario, but I play him on TV.
I almost said
Purgatory.
Yeah, Purgatory. Is it like the Purgatory? Where like he just has to keep going and going and going, and they're just doing this play for us for all eternity. Like, what? I don't understand.
Mario is Sisyphus.
I think Miyamoto's even said like you should view these Mario characters as just actors in a play.
Yeah,
I think he's basically 99% said that they are just actors, which is a fun way to view it until you start thinking about it in the nerd way we are. We're like, wait, so what's Mario really like? Is he a jerk?
Yeah.
Should he be canceled?
He's canceled in his universe. Yeah.
Is he behind on rent? What's up with that guy?
Gosh. Is he is he seen as attractive by the masses?
Well, I think what we know like factually is that Bowser is in real life a good dad.
Well, he's a good
tracks. He's
a dad. He's not really always the greatest dad, but he tries.
Does that imply that every game of Mario Party is scripted?
I don't think so. I would assume it's
like WWE,
improv.
like they give them storylines.
It's like a game show at that point. There's still the chance anything could happen, right?
No,
Yeah,
it
so like
actually
improv
makes
game
sense
show.
because it feels like even if you play a game with all NPCs set to like all the same difficulty, there will be one that's like a front runner, like your rival for the game.
Yeah.
Like it won't be like completely random. It'll be like, no, this is the guy that's going to be kicking your ass like this.
Yeah, the entire time. Because it's not like they're all going to be like, oh, 3-star, 3-star,
like,
2 stars.
Yeah,
it's like, no, this guy has
and
like
then
7.
one of them gets like, I don't know, like half of their brain shot off or something because they just use like the same item and go around in a circle.
Like what happens at the Mario Party you and I played recently, Brody, that will be up on patreon.com/crub on April 1st. Soon after this, one guy just keeps rolling ones over and over and over and over and over, and everything sucks and is miserable constantly all the time.
I really enjoyed that episode.
Who would that be? Sometimes that happens. Maybe that's scripted.
That's so fun. Well, and you know what? Here's the thing, fellas. So, we don't usually acknowledge chat during the podcast proper, but we do stream these podcasts live every Tuesday at twitch.tv/crub_official. And Kevin, our good friend, said, yo, Mario Crisis actors.
I was worried you were going to mention that, but it is true. Is he a crisis actor?
Yeah.
Are the flags of the Mushroom Kingdom false flags?
Yeah. Is he method acting?
Is he method acting?
Method acting, and that's why he can play baseball and action and do all that the Mario Party stuff. Right, that makes sense.
Gosh, Mario's a method actor. That's
Mario. Mario is an actor, and
I hate every word.
I wonder if Mario were to clean up his room, if he'd be a better man.
yeah. Like, gosh.
I have a question. Is it time to maybe? Do we want to put one final thought in each about endings, and then?
I have a question for Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris. What's up?
Hey, so do you think that Zephyr and Breeze Harbor ever ended their war, or do you think they're like still going?
Man, Spyro. That's why we need a Spyro 4, is to check in and see that nothing has changed for any of these characters in the past 20 years, and they're all doing entirely typical trope things.
So,
well, the thing is, if you extend 1 or 3, you can be like, oh, they're all living their happy little lives. But 2 is like so many different
conflicts.
Yeah, so many different factions across so much different land and cultures and everything. Like literally, like having multiple sets of 2 levels where they're just warring against each other.
Yeah, so is Spyro a consequential for everybody's story, or is Spyro a consequential for only these people's story?
Well, Spyro literally he fights on both sides of a international conflict.
That's true.
All right, well, yeah,
he does commit treason to both regions somehow.
He goes to a land of like militaristic birds with airships and fights off of like the blobs that are like attacking them. Then goes to the homeland of the blobs and fights off the birds.
He's an opportunistic asshole. If you think
in a way, but when you think about it, like he's the definition of a peacekeeper because he's only attacking the offenders in each country. He's playing defense in both cases.
That's the name of the world from Spyro 1. Wow. Peacekeeper. Wow. It's a great thought. In my mind, they have kept the war all this time because war is forever. And I don't know. That's it.
Because war is profit.
War is profitable for the bird and slug things.
Man.
Otherwise have no final thoughts to commit to answer you, Nico.
Okay, Sean, you got any final thoughts on just endings and things like that?
No, like I said, I enjoy like thinking about certain places and like universes. It's like, oh, what happened after this? You know, did it become a myth? Did it become, something that people forgot about? And then there's other ones that I'm just like, how did you all exist like even 2 years later? So it's something I kind of enjoy to think about every now and then like see a game come out like say 5 years later and they just ignore every question you have and you just sit there like, well, screw me, I guess.
Been there. Yeah. Tears of the Kingdom is probably one of those for me where I was like, oh man, what happens next in this world? And the answer is they all just kind of forgot.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Valid.
Yeah.
Alien furries. Was next in that world.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of
happens
alien
more
furries,
often than you'd think. because I actually was thinking about like how
oh gosh,
I was thinking about how Jack 2 actually tells you what happens like in the far future of Jack 1 to the point where like there's your actions in Jack 1 have been mythologized into a different person's actions in the future.
Right. I see.
Which, you know, slowly comes to like the head of a realization that's happened. But also, that's also a game where it was revealed that it was furry aliens the whole time.
I see.
I think my most controversial
a world inhabited by people with elf ears who then go on to be descendants of furry aliens. All I'm saying is Tears of the Kingdom stole Jack's plot.
I think the most controversial take I could say in the spaces I inhabit on the internet is that no one should care about Jack and Daxter's story.
Yeah,
what I should care about is our Patreon question of the week from Chef Kilo.
Oh wait! I had one. I had a thought,
which will come after the thought from Nico. Sorry, I thought you were saying this
toward after Nico's thought.
No, I had one more thought to give. I was just going around the circle first.
It felt like you were moving us along, so I was like,
I was also moving us along, but I'll do a quick one, which is I'm a big proponent of the falling action, and I don't think stories have enough falling action generally. I think that they climax and then they give you a little bit of an ending and then they leave you. And I think the goal of artists a lot of the time is to leave people wanting more. And I really don't like that mentality. I like the falling action because I like this type of thing, thinking about living in a world and seeing just what happens after a story, especially if it's characters I like. I just want more of them after the story is over, but not necessarily a whole other like sequel all the time. And so a little bit of nice, like, you know, a little nugget of what their day-to-day is like is always nice. So
I gotcha.
Yeah. My favorite falling action is when there's no fall damage.
Thanks,
just like Fortnite. Chris, continue with that question. Sorry.
I watched my Digimon poop as Brody gave that thought, and it felt very fitting. Patreon question of the week from Chef Kilo. If you want to give a Patreon question of the week, you can go to patreon.com/crub. You can even just go to the tip jar tier, and for $2 United States dollars, you can give each of us less than a quarter after Patreon takes their cut. Submit as many questions as you want to our spreadsheet, and then leave if you want. We just want questions.
Yes.
The question from Chef Kilo this week, fittingly for the chef, is what is a fast food joint that is common, like McDonald's, that you would like to try in a different part of the world? I have an immediate obvious answer, because in Japan, for some reason, KFC, I don't know if it's a meme, I don't know if it's like an actual heartfelt, sentimental thing, but they do KFC for Christmas, and that feels insane to me. And I just want to know, like, if their chicken is not much better over there, or if it's just exactly like ours, and they just do that. I'm also curious about Taco Bell Japan. But I guess I just want to go to
Taco Bell was probably going to be my answer for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm just so curious as to what they'd come up with.
Is it this bad everywhere, or do other places have it better?
And the other thing is, I'm also looking at it from the perspective of like, in Canada, we don't get as many Taco Bell items as the US gets. So even just going to the US to get Taco Bell items is a big thing for me.
Right. That's interesting. I didn't realize. Can you use a VPN to get around that, Brody?
Yeah. Go on NordVPN and to download the Taco Bell breakfast menu.
You just slot it in. Brody, you reminded me, actually. I hear the A&W restaurants, A&W, like the root beer, are so much better up there, and I've always been so curious how good they actually are.
A&W rocks.
They're not that good down here.
that brings me to my answer, is I want to find a Long John Silver's just in a different country.
Yes. Oh my God.
Any other country.
That's the biggest meme of my childhood.
That's the right answer. That's right answer. Oh my God. Oh my God. I didn't think there would be a right answer to this question. I thought it'd be like, oh yeah, I'd say, funny. It's McDonald's. I'd go to McDonald's. But no, it's Long John Silver. Sean is right.
Yeah.
You gotta see.
You have to see what it's like.
Well, and especially so first of all, I don't know that I'd go there in maybe a landlocked country, possibly.
Yeah, but like somewhere on the sea,
somewhere on the ocean. You know what? Where I could get better fish.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. That gets sad really quickly.
Hold on.
I'll pass by all the local shops that get the fish daily, and I'll just go to John Silver's, and then I'll go to Captain D's to immediately compare.
But it's not sad if it's for research. And actually, I do have another another answer. And like,
Okay.
I suppose the question or this answer is contingent upon whether your mid-tier like family restaurants, you know, your Ruby Tuesdays, your TGI Fridays, right? Whether these your Longhorn Steakhouses, your Texas Roadhouses, right? Do these have locations outside of the U.S. or equivalents outside of the U.S.?
Yeah, like, can I go to Brazil
Some
for like Denny's?
Right. I can't exactly. I can't imagine that something like a Texas Roadhouse would, but I can see
That'd be funny.
Like a Ruby Tuesday or a TGI Fridays being like coded to a non-America.
You know what one definitely has international variants is Subway.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
That's different though. But to Nico's point, it's either Lone Star or Texas Roadhouse. Whichever one has closed down in the United States does have
Lone Star.
For some reason, a franchise location in like Puerto Rico or somewhere in South or Central America. I don't know why, but they do. It's on their Wikipedia page. That would probably be acceptable food to eat.
Yeah,
probably.
I'd try it.
I don't have like a fond memory or any memory in my head of what their food's like. So I'm like, I guess it'd probably be fine. I don't know.
So within the past year and a half, let's say, one of my friends and I did stumble upon, going through, I think he was going through some like old knickknacks and stuff, right? And he found a TGI Fridays gift card. And we went to the TGI Fridays for research purposes. It was as food as you would expect it to be.
I'm not gonna lie. The TGI Fridays by me is either like really good food or food that I wish I never bought in my entire life. And there's no in between.
Valid. That's
like,
so valid.
There's one week where it's like, oh, wow, I will come here every day. And then I come here the next day and I'm just like, wow, I wasted $20. I don't want to come here ever again. And then like 2 months later, I come back.
It's the gamble. Yeah.
Oh,
you
man.
know, the experience I've had with international food is one time when I was younger, my family and I went down to Florida, and on our way back after the whole trip, we had stopped at I can't remember if it was a Golden Corral or a Ponderosa's, because I don't know if Ponderosa's is a steakhouse or a
Brody,
buffet, but it was a buffet.
Before you get too much further, I'm just going to mention that Brody does not live in the U.S., so Florida is in fact international food for him. Yeah. Just for listeners who might not know this.
Brody, quick question: is there a Cracker Barrel internationally?
Yes, I think so. Okay. I don't think I've been to one, or if I have, I don't remember going to one. But yeah, I think
I was like, that feels like a very like solely American thing. But
well,
like,
so what I was impressed with the Golden Corral and or Ponderosa's was that it was a buffet, and it was not like a buffet that I had seen before, because I'm accustomed to like the Chinese food style buffet of like. Different like Asian food, basically,
right?
And
like westernized.
And there's one that was more like I've been to one that's like more Italian kind of thing. What I really liked about the one in Florida was they had literally it was a the only word to describe it is a trough, and it was a trough of ground beef taco meat.
That's kind of awesome.
I scooped it into piles and just ate it.
Yeah.
Like, I must have been like 14, 15 years old, just scooping, eating piles of Golden Corral ground beef.
Okay, I was ready for you to say, like, this was like last year where you just like showed up and like, I need all of this.
That is Bobby Hill behavior if I've ever heard it from you, Brody.
Well, and I remember, it's very Bobby Hill, because I remember there was other families there, and I was really like awkward about going up, because it was like, oh, there's other people like,
let them know,
like eating. Well, the thing is, it wasn't like packed, right? Like the place was like, it was late at night. It was kind of in the middle of nowhere. We were like on our way, I think, going to like our flight back home or whatever, and we're there, and there's like maybe 2 or 3 other families like hanging out. So like if anyone goes up to the buffet,
you have to wait.
All eyes are on you, because it's just like families with children being like, movement, and then they're looking at you shoveling ground beef onto your plate to take back and eat.
I'm just imagining the most stereotypical American looking back, like, what's that boy doing? He's just scooping meat onto his plate. Oh yeah, brother.
I
don't think you'd be judged so much as envied in that moment.
Oh, I think you need to understand these were like families, like families that have like taken their kids to Disneyland and are now getting like food or something.
Affluent families. I got you. Okay, that's different.
I think we found what a morn chelada is.
A morn chelada?
Morn chelada.
No,
We've been searching for something to affix more enchilada too for a long time, and I would say that would have to apply.
Oh, dude, buffet taco meat.
that might be worse than my drunk story, where like I had to like army crawl to the kitchen for taco meat, and I just like made it there, turned around, grabbed meat, put it on my stomach, and ate it there.
God,
I'm not kidding. Also, Wolf of Wall Street was on in the background. Never watched it since. Don't even know how the first half happens.
That sets the scene so much.
You know, I think that's a podcast.
I think I'm ready to call it too, boys. That's a podcast.
I just wanted to mention the vibes of like you know in a Christmas movie when you see like the family go out for dinner and like they can't find anything for dinner, so they go to like an international food place that's like open on Christmas anyway. Right. This was the vibe of the Golden Corral.
Yeah.
Was like you're not supposed to be open and serving food right now, but you are, and so we're going to take advantage of it.
What a picture to paint.
And with that, fellas, yes.
And with that, I think it's time to call it an episode, folks. We'll
now
see you in the
can
next
either, if you're listening to this on YouTube, you can wonder what happens at the end of the Crubcast. But if you're here with us now live, you're going to get to know that.
Yeah, you can experience our falling action live in the exclusive pre and post show, also available on our Patreon, folks.
Join
thank
Crub
you for hanging with us.
climax.
For Crub, this has been Chris Mykonos fan, Sean Wolf Ko-san, Brody, and I've been All Hail Buckets. We'll see you in the next one.